And the third appetizer for something that the workshop is already this afternoon is Professor Nils Hoegsdal and Professor Bernt Hoegsdal.
Thank you, Mr. Kritz, for the introduction. I'm going to talk about the development of management simulation games models in Germany. And the question is, when did it start? How did it start? It all started, my son is doing it. It all started with Dr. Rohn. He was head of Human Resource Department at Enka Glanzstoff, a company with some 50,000 employees. And he took part in a seminar 1961 in America, playing the game Top Management Decision Simulation from American Management Association. And he came back and said, this is the future of management training. And he introduced several games into the company. They were also being used generally in Germany. And when he retired in 1980, he founded, with some other friends, the German Management Association. And within this association, again, he was in charge of the training part. Also, again, forcing management games. And he also founded the German Management Center, Management Game Center, getting all people being involved in management games into a yearly conference, taking 3 days with exhibition, and it did quite a lot to promote the idea of management games. Basics of management games are the same. In a compressed time frame, putting people under pressure, and to see how people behave. So within 2 or 3 days, you can simulate maybe 6 to 8 years in reality. And as a game manager, you can do quite a lot to get activity coming in and to use your body and also your brain or your mind getting out of conflict or the complex situations. Next picture. How did I get involved with simulations? I have a degree in aeronautical aerospace engineering. Later on, I did something on economics. And I was very fascinated by aircraft simulators. And this is a simulator for vertical takeoff aircrafts, me sitting on top of it. And at that time, we used simulators before you design the real aircraft. Then you save a lot of money. Beginning of the 70s, I came to a place called USW, Management Center in Gracht Castle, very close to Cologne. It was a joint venture, 1969, with Harvard Business School and management training centers in Germany for training top managers. And next picture. And the seminars for top management or for upper management run between 3 to 10 weeks. And in a 10-week course, we had 1 week with a big simulation model from University of Bonn, simulating the German economy. We found some 500 equations. And to run the game, we needed some 10 PhD students to take care of the game. And the result was the participants never managed to keep the economy as good as the politicians did, which was very, very fascinating. Yeah, it was fascinating. And again, at 1970, ICL Computers in the UK started a national management game with Financial Times. And 1 year later, the head of the Handelsblatt, being the equivalent to Financial Times in Germany, he called up my boss, the director at USW, and said, why can't we do something similar in Germany? And my boss called me in one day and said, you know something about simulations? And I said, aircraft simulators. And he said, basically, they're all the same. Then he asked me the question, do you know something about computing, how to program? I said, no idea. Well, there are books about this. And you know something about business simulators? And I said, no. Well, American Management Association, they have books on this, you know. And the good news, we get a computer within the next 2 weeks from IBM, and you have 6 months' time to generate a model. Go ahead. So that's me with my my boss, Professor Albach. And this computer was fantastic, 40 square feet, or square meter. It was always very warm in this room. And we had a feeling for bits and bytes. You can feel the bits walking through the room. And we had 32 kilobyte memory. And if it didn't really work, you can just open the storage bank and take your screwdriver, knock on it, and it worked. The first game was called the Oligopoly game. And we had 512 teams and 120 parallel sessions, per team, 6 participants. And it was a success, and 3,500 punch cards. And this is what left of the Olga game. Punch cards. Quite a few of the younger people never seen a punch card. We even had different colors, depending upon what type of the program you're just programming. And for the next year, we had to get back quite a lot of the participants having played the Olga game. So instead of having 2 products and 3 markets, we had 3 products and 4 markets. And I just talked to the director or the head of the Marga game today, because my information was 85,000 participants since 1972, and he said earlier on today, more than 100,000 competing. And the best teams got to Gracht Castle, and it was very good also for the career of the participants, because to win this game was again, well, part of your career in German industry. So I left USW after, having done my PhD, and a partner, I worked for the Dornier Aerospace company, and I talked to a partner. He was in charge of microcomputers in this company. And I was talking about these 3,500 punch cards and this big program. And he said, well, today you can put everything into a small computer. So 1981, we spent the summer programming the Marga game onto this computer which we built. And we said, well, this is the beginning, because it worked. We had to use quite a lot of floppy disks to run the simulation. And then the Osborne computers came into the market. So we said, this is a starter kit for trainers. They get a computer, they get a printer, they get paper to get the reports out of the system, and 5 floppy disks. So on the screen you can say, put in floppy A1, put in floppy A2, and B1, B2, B3. And after 2 minutes, you had your result. You were independent of these big mainframe computers. And that was the starting then of Unicorn Management Systems Limited. We started then our company. And since 1982, we developed simulation models. And so far, well, until I gave over the company to my son, year 2000, we developed some 60 models for various types of industry, and also 20 models for companies. Because some companies said, we're not interested in just simulating a company. We want to simulate our company, the practice and the background of our business reality. Also important, we had the business simulation models, computer-based training modules for self-learning to prepare for a seminar with simulation models. Then we had PC tools for holistic thinking, which we developed together with Professor Fester. And we also run seminars. Seminars being seminars for participants, but also train the trainers. You had this starter kit, but at that time, very few people knew how to operate a personal computer. So they tell them, this is a computer, and you can do something with it. And what fascinated me is, since 1982, the intensity of a seminar. And you get your results, for example, and you're so excited about, what kind of results did we get? Why did the competitors do something very strange? Did it affect our company? What should we do next time? How do you make a profit? And this is a trainer seminar. Next picture. From the start, we developed modular complexity, because sometimes you want to start it very easy for the first 1 or 2 periods in a seminar. You started one product in one market, and then you might have the further products coming into the market, or you have one product and you go into different markets. And after a while, you can just expand the total model, playing all products in all markets. So complexity was very important by using modules. We also liked haptic models, and some competitors also using, the hand models, hand simulations. And a project management simulation is just as good doing it manually, because you see what you are doing. It shouldn't always be a computer. You put some decision data into it, you get some reports, but to really find out what's going on. And we also had these haptic models. Professor Clovers talked about it this morning, using your body and your brain. Because having a computer model, you just use your brain. But having these haptic models, try to build this highest tower and making a profit as well. You have to use your brain and sometimes also your skills. So, next picture, my son. Come back of the board game. Very, very good for mass training. At Mercedes-Benz, they trained some 6,000 employees within 2 months using these games. And the fascination of board games, you see again what happens. You see the cash flow. You see the flow of material. You see the flow of money. And you see the end result being the profit. So you can do a basic training within half a day or 3/4 of a day. We also did models on a one-to-one simulation, the stock exchange simulator. 1 day in a seminar would be 1 day in reality. You started at 8 o'clock in the morning, you get a fictitious paper, and how many transactions did you do during the day, and how much profit did you make? Then we had a simulation model for Siemens. 10 minutes in a seminar being 1 week in your project, in a 1-year project. And the idea was 6 people in the group, each takes part of a sub-project. And only he can read a certain information on the screen, and he has to release this information and take a decision. The idea was very good. One day during the seminar, one person went to the toilet for 20 minutes. And they lost 2 weeks in the project. So that's when we introduced the stop button for this type of simulation. We never thought about this. Next one. We also made company models, and Bayer Chemical Company wanted to simulate their models, their activities worldwide, doing also intercultural training, because they found out running a company in South America is different to run a company in China and in Germany. And top management of Bayer Chemical said there is only one way actually to run the Bayer company. And the best teams, 3,000 teams worldwide, best teams coming into the head office and playing for 3 days in the final session, and top management was there all the time. Also very good for the career if you manage to win the game. Next one. We also had simulation models with students, pupils and students. Pupils being 14 years old, up to students at universities. And when students play, sometimes they even fight themselves. Throwing bottles, getting really wild, using again your brain and your body. And sometimes when the students find out we are going to lose this game, they tended to play against the model, trying a bit of gambling. So it's very important to have a model where you can say you can do whatever you like, it reacts very realistic as well. You can't just double the price, increase or treble your marketing expenditure and think you can sell a lot. Next picture. Computer-based training in 1990. A normal seminar with simulation models would run for something like 3 to 5 days. And companies wanted to cut down the cost of training. So they said, why can we not prepare the students or the participants before they come into the seminar? So we made these 12 Charlie modules, teaching you the basics of microeconomics. So having finished the 12 modules, you then could enter a normal simulation seminar. We also did some tests with distance learning application, 1995. The trainer sits in Berlin. The groups work in Cologne and in Stuttgart, all over the place in Germany. And you can use your mouse and show from Berlin, a team in Stuttgart, watch this figure. This is important for you. Distance learning. Technologically, it was no problem. Next one. And now I hand over to my son.
Okay, so just a few ideas on what happened. So back in around 1995, 1996, I slowly started to get involved. And I spent a few more minutes just looking at a few things. So one thing which I thought is interesting when I look from the management simulations, even business simulations, are much older than most people think. So this is a book. And it's in German, it's quoting that really management simulations, as we know it, have been around in the 17th, 18th century already. So that's a very, very interesting thing. This book is, by the way, nowadays available online. We've seen those pictures. What I really think is, when you look at entrepreneurship research, and now I'm teaching entrepreneurship, you have something which is called a window of opportunity. When our company got more and more international, we met people in Sweden, I visited companies in North America. And guess what? Most companies were founded in 1982. Why? Technology was there, the idea was there. So for management simulation, computer-based management simulations, 1981, 1982 were really the years, the windows of opportunities. Amazing. Go through the world. Some found a little later, 1985. So some of the drivers, it's really cost of technology. In 1970, you need about 1.5 to 2 million German marks, which is about 1 million euro, but not in today's money. Those costs dropped down by the factor of every 5, 6, 7 years by about 50%. So in the 1980s, suddenly you could do software plus hardware for 20 to 50,000 German marks. Nowadays, I think we could develop a management simulation which is decent for about 10,000 euro. So standardization was happening. But what was driving afterwards? The internet was coming, and that was sort of the starting point, but also shifting point. First, people tried those computer-aided business simulations, management simulations for 99 euro. We've mentioned the board simulations and how they were used. But really, the internet was very, very interesting. In the beginning, it was like the first, I think the Rolls-Royce Museum is very close to here. So if you go to the Rolls-Royce Museum, the first cars were actually horse carriages being pulled and just powered by an engine. A little bit of our internet simulations was just remote delivery. Soon afterwards, people found about communication required, massive online simulations. But I think really what we're missing out is, to some extent, Web 2.0 functionality and definitely the debriefing part. To show you how quickly those simulations evolved, this was a picture of a simulation done in 1999. This was designed about 2000. Within 3-4 years, something for the German government. We had avatars, and those things almost started to look like the real simulations. So I think we are really a very interesting point. We do simulations on the web, in a classroom. I'm teaching with management simulations, class with 50, 60 students, and I've really embraced the flipped classroom approach. So the management simulation is what we do in the classroom. That's for advanced accounting. And they actually have to work on the reports, on the numbers, navigate the business, and provide like a document which is like the annual report. So I think, where are we right now? I think you all know that. I think what I really want to miss out, I think a very, very interesting point has been, I've seen more and more narratives getting into management simulations recently. So more management simulations becoming more story-based. And this is almost what I want to quickly do to show in the afternoon. In the afternoon, you can play Tops and Petrol at 3 o'clock. So imagine the narratives. You drive over to Lindau. It's about 15, 20-minute drive from here. So small town on the German side. And back in 1990, it was really a different country. By the way, the last time Germany won the World Soccer Championship. So 1919, and this was a gas station. And yes, we have managed to get this up and running, and you can actually play this DOS-based management simulation, which is a one-on-one model of a gas station 1990. Go 20 years, well, really go around 35 years back, you were distinguishing between leaded and unleaded fuel. Your biggest, really revenue things were lubricants, oil, transmission. This is where you had the 50-60% margins. You were offering tune-up services. And guess in the old days, there were no GPSs around, you were actually selling maps. So people, when they had to travel somewhere in business, they would stop at the first gas station in a different city and buy a map of that city. And usually the person on the right side would have the map upside down. So anyway, this is it's just a generation ago, and it's a very different world. It has, and it's showing, I think, also the project of really it's showing really how much history there is. And again, if you're interested in that, it's up and running. We managed to get it up and running on an MS-DOS-based PC. We actually managed to get some of the old computers up and running, but the problem is the floppy disks are no longer working. So the computers are fine, but the floppy disks are not really working anymore. So again, join us. Some decision screens. We talk about bad game design. Well, this is also bad game design to some extent. Too many decisions in the beginning, too many small things. You're deciding about promotion budgets, you're deciding about markups. And one of the biggest investment decisions was whether you wanted to do a car wash, for example. So again, you can see that we really had to actually hire people. So this is not one of those huge. And I think, who was the alcoholic?
Well, he was taking care of the petrol station during the night.
So there was one guy, if you hired him, you had big decreases, you had big losses of inventory in the evening when it came to drinks. So anyway, what I talk about, the story-based learning, this is something people still do remember. So it was like the guy owning the station, if you look at the names. And his wife, for example, was working more or less for free. And by the way, some famous mechanics. So anyway, opening hours which had to be decided. So again, join us if you're interested at 3 o'clock. You can play that historic management simulation. Obviously, for the sake of time, we made it a little simpler. So we took some complexity out. We'll be deciding about a few decisions, not all of those decisions. We got a participant system set up. We got an instructor system set up. And depending how many people we have, we either do it paper-based and use the computer for the processing, or we can get the full experience. So I think we did okay on the time part. So thank you very much. So I would go back to Willy.
Thank you.